Well, the biggest concerns discussed today were really about the lack of leadership from government over very key policy reforms that are coming up, and it's leading to a lot of uncertainty about where budgets are going to be spent and how to spend them.
I think the biggest concerns were a lack of clarity, both in terms of timeline for implementation, but also detail around what's going to happen. And really, local authorities desperately need confirmation on timeline, and of course so does the supply chain in terms of disposal capacity around the country.
And until we get that, we just feel like we're playing a waiting game at the moment. We can't move forward with purchasing vehicles, other equipment, bins, and also disposal contracts are sometimes being held up because of this lack of certainty really with what the future holds.
Consensus of opinion was that if the government continues implementing as they are, then absolutely not. We won't get those environmental benefits.
I think the consensus is very much as we all want to drive this forward. We need some advice from government to actually tell us, and the lack of that advice and that legislation is causing us frustration, and it actually is adding in cost.
For me, I think the best ideas were really having a detailed implementation plan from the government and a sequential approach to implementation, not everything coming in at once, being rushed, not being able to see how they interact, taking in each element at a time was really the key point.
The timelines, how that can be delivered and how that can be framed for implementation in order to be able to resource up for getting the right ideas put in an achievable amount of time and without bringing in an overbearing amount of cost on top of that.
What we all said at the end was in unison, we want the government to announce what these consistency proposals are so we can move forward. Local authorities do want to increase recycling, and until we've got that clarity and the funding necessary to do that, we can't move forward at all.
The most important thing is for central government to talk to local government about the new waste regulations and try to mitigate some of the risks that they represent.
The current proposals clearly have got stumbling blocks because of the delay. The current expected timescales are not viable. There are a range of unintended consequences that we don't think government have taken into account. So it was really an opportunity that government need to stand back a little bit, consult with local government and consider how we may move forward in a way that's more beneficial.
Maybe introducing food waste, then taking a pause to see how that actually sort of worked or didn't work, then introducing the different levies or the different types on top of that, the different parts of the legislation. So we made sure that we were building on sort of decisions rather than trying to do all of those at the same time, and didn't actually understand which one made sort of the right decision. But the other big bit was about making sure we communicate. So I think what's been felt is there's been a lack of communication from some government departments about not actually consulting with local government about what the effects of these changes might be.
I think in a year's time we will be in very much the same position as we are now, probably still not having enough information to actually make a decision, and I very much doubt anything will have changed.
I like to think they'll be better, but while the uncertainty remains, I remain unconvinced.
Well, we thought 2 years ago we'd know by now what we were doing, but 2 years since the consultation ended and we're still no clearer.
I think we are going on the right trajectory. I think there are measures in place now that can get us there. We need to accelerate certain areas, definitely. The principles of what the measures that are being introduced now are correct. What we need to do is make sure that they're done in the right way and in the right timescale.
I think recycling services are improving all the time. So despite not having clear legislation out there, local authorities are doing huge amounts of work to actually develop and enhance those.
I think there's going to be no real change at the moment, and I say that because we just don't have any indication of when measures really will emerge.
In a year's time, the proposals won't be sorted or implemented, so if that year is used productively, we will have planned in a more efficient manner.
That's very hard to say. I hope better. I suspect pretty much the same kind of muddle that it is now.